This is Neural Newscast.
Here is what matters for Saturday, April 11th.
The ceasefire between Israel and Iran remains under extreme pressure this morning as officials reconcile the human and military costs of the 40-day war. Since February 28th, Iran has launched 650 missiles at targets across the region, resulting in 24 deaths.
Israel's response included more than 10,800 strikes during that same period, highlighting the massive scale of the aerial campaign. Although a truce went into effect on April 8th, the intensity of those prior exchanges has left both nations on the brink of further escalation. Analysts suggest that without a clear consensus on the geographical scope of the truce, the current pause in direct state-on-state violence may be temporary. Both sides are maintaining high alert levels as they prepare for high-stakes diplomatic meetings later this weekend.
Turning now to the diplomatic front, a high-level Iranian delegation led by Parliament Speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf has arrived in Islamabad for talks with United States officials. These negotiations are intended to solidify the terms of the recent ceasefire and prevent a return to full-scale war.
However, reports indicate internal friction within Tehran's leadership. IRGC Commander Ahmad Vahidi is reportedly attempting to limit the authority of the negotiating team. This power struggle could impact Iran's ability to present a unified stance during the weekend sessions.
Meanwhile, Pope Leo XIV issued a pointed rebuke of the ongoing regional conflict, stating that God does not bless any war. The Vatican's message emphasized the moral failure of continued violence and called for an immediate shift toward humanitarian priorities.
This rare intervention from the Holy See reflects growing international concern over the ethical implications of the 40-day war. The Pope's comments were specifically directed at the religious justifications often cited by various factions involved in the fighting.
In other news, the Israeli government has officially excluded France and Spain from upcoming negotiations regarding the situation in Lebanon. Officials cited a blatant anti-Israel bias from both European nations as the primary reason for their removal from the diplomatic process.
Spain was specifically expelled from the United States-led Maritime Coordination Center in Kiryat Gat. This move signals a narrowing of the diplomatic circle as Israel seeks to work exclusively with partners it deems neutral or supportive.
Still, the humanitarian situation in Lebanon continues to deteriorate. UNICEF reports that 33 children were killed in a single day of strikes this week. The agency described the loss of life as a catastrophic consequence of the failure to protect non-combatants.
Total displacement in Lebanon has now surpassed 900,000 people, according to United Nations data. This mass movement of civilians is straining the resources of neighboring regions, already struggling with economic instability and infrastructure damage.
Next, a Beersheba family court has granted Iris Haim, the mother of a slain hostage, to use her late son's sperm to conceive a child. The court ruled that Yotam Haim had clearly expressed a desire to fulfill the dream of fatherhood before his death.
This decision sets a significant legal precedent in Israel for posthumous reproduction. The ruling was supported by the Shover Sivian organization, which has been advocating for the rights of families of those killed in the October 7th attacks.
Turning now to regional security, the Israeli Air Force intercepted a drone entering the country from Jordan late yesterday. Military officials suspect the aircraft was part of a smuggling attempt, though the specific cargo and origin of the drone are still being investigated.
The interception occurred without incident or injury on the ground. Security forces have increased surveillance along the eastern border to prevent further incursions as regional tensions remain elevated during the current ceasefire.
Here is what else we are watching. On Monday, the Board of Peace is expected to address reports of a significant funding shortfall. Current sources suggest the group has raised less than $1 billion, stalling plans for reconstruction in Gaza.
In the coming days, Lebanese representatives are scheduled to arrive in Washington for talks with United States mediators. However, the Lebanese presidency has stated they will only engage if a formal ceasefire with Israel is established before the meetings begin.
Finally, international energy markets are monitoring the Strait of Hormuz after President Donald Trump described Iranian threats to the waterway as short-term extortion. Traders are watching for any signs of naval movement that could impact global oil supply chains.
That is the briefing for Saturday, April 11th. Neural Newscast is AI-assisted, human-reviewed. View our AI transparency policy at neuralnewscast.com. Thanks for listening.